Tonight we're considering a lesson from God's Word under the theme of the topic, the last mile of the way. I'm going to go about this a little bit different than we typically think of the last mile of the way. Often it's the case when we sing about that particular period of time in the Christian journey, it almost sounds like the coast, like we're coasting now, and we're just going to coast into the finish line. Tonight's sermon is about finishing what we have started. That song we just sang says, "If I've walked in the pathway of duty, if I've worked till the close of the day, I shall see the great King in His beauty when I've gone the last mile of the way. If I've walked and if I've worked, then I will see that great glorious King that we talked about last night." The last mile of the way is about finishing the race. And that's the emphasis that I want and hope to place on it tonight. Relative to the last mile of the way, there are four things that I want to impress upon our minds tonight that I think they've been helpful to me and I think will be helpful to you. Some extremely important realities or facts relative to the last mile of the way. Here's the first one. We are already in the last mile of the way. This is not some point in the Christian journey where we reach a point of switch is flipped, and like I said, we start to coast to the finish line. We are in it right now. In James chapter 4, verses 13 and 15, in the context of an individual saying with adamant confidence, "I will do this today, tomorrow, this is what I am going to do." James says, what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, "If the Lord wills, I will do this, and I will do that." You and I are not guaranteed a moment in this life. We've talked a lot about the brevity of life, about how short it is, the idea of a vapor. But the brevity of life is an oft-ignored reality. The problem is, we typically realize that life is brief too late. Because we get to the moment of that wake up moment. But I think of passages that warn us throughout God's Word of the brevity of life. Like Psalm 39 and verse 5. "Indeed, you have made my days as a hand's breadth, and my age is as nothing before you. Certainly, every man at his best state is a vapor." We've talked about vapors. A vapor is not something that lingers like smoke. It's here and then it's gone. Just go home tonight and put a pot of water on the stove and turn it to a boil. And sit there and think about the fact that life is a vapor and watch the vapor rise and dissipate into the air. That image is used repeatedly in the Word of God to demonstrate our life. And we have a hard time wrapping our minds around the idea of brevity. I have tried in numerous ways to be creative, to help people realize on the grand scheme of things, as regards eternity, just how brief this little moment that we live actually is. One way that I suggested we might understand and appreciate it was to take a spool of thread and to start unwinding that thread and tie one end of it to the corner of the building here. And then somewhere along the way, just tie one knot in it. And then tie the other end as far away as you can at the other corner of the building. And then just start here with your fingers on that thread and just start walking along the thread and holding that thread between your fingers. And that represents, in a minuscule way, eternity. And somewhere along that walk, as you walk across this building, feeling the smoothness of that thread, you'll hit that knot that you tied in that thread, but only for a fraction of a moment. And that's your life in view of eternity. We really, really need to appreciate the brevity of that moment in time that we try to pack everything into. Need to think outside that little knot about what our life will have amounted to when God judges us based on how we utilized it. Psalm 90 and verse 9 says, we finish our years like a sigh. I think of the human body when perhaps it takes its last breath and then it expires. It's often the case that just a sigh or just a release of air will come out as a representation that life is over. Just a sigh. Life is short. It is brief. And since you and I are not assured 1 second, then we have to conclude that we're in the last mile of the way. That's the only way that we can safely approach life and live it. A runner, let's just say a runner is running a race and it's a 4-lap race. He can begin and say, I have 4 laps to go. And he makes the first lap, he can say, I have 3. And on he goes, I have 2. And then I'm in the last lap of the race. As far as that race goes, he knows there's 4 laps. And then it's over. And he can count down. But you and I we don't have the luxury of knowing when our last lap is. So wisdom would tell us to live every moment that we have as if we're in the last mile of our way. It's not about age. We have no idea how much time God will allow us to live. I said many years ago, I guess 21, when children started entering into our lives, I just wanted and found myself at times pleading with God just long enough to raise my children and get them off to a good start. Get them off on the right foot. Because you don't know. You just don't know. We are already in the last lap. If you're not looking at life that way, then you're behind. You may have never obeyed the gospel of Jesus Christ. And you may be thinking in your mind, I have plenty of laps left. I have plenty of opportunity. I didn't plan it, but did you just hear the siren? I wonder where that emergency vehicle was headed. I hope and pray it was It's not something serious that involves someone's life. But typically, that's what something like that means. Don't try to live life like you have an abundance of it. Because we don't know that we do. Number two, after having considered that we are already in the last mile of the way, it seems to me very important that we understand and appreciate that the race isn't done while there is still course to run. It's not over until we finish the race. You have to finish, and then you rest. And that's the principle that goes all the way back to creation. God created, and then He rested. He started, He finished, then He rested. And that is a precedent set and established for us even today. We do the work that we are called upon to do, and then we rest. Parents may give children chores in the home, and there may be 3 or 4 things that they're supposed to do, and they get halfway through with the first one, and then they sit down. They take a break, and you say, "What are you doing?" "I'm resting." "Well, you don't rest until you finish. You have to finish the work, and then you rest." I wish we would look at these eternal principles that way. Got a lot of folks resting in the church when we need to be working. Got a lot of folks at the time in their life where they really need to be sprinting, but they're sitting down. And the sad tragedy is they never get back up. That's the end of the race for them. And I know them personally. And I'm not unique. You know them personally. It happens all the time around us. You see brothers and sisters that you love, care for, sitting down. I'm just going to take a break. But they're quitting. But the race is done while there's still course to run. Our race has a finish line to be crossed. Why? Why is it so many of our fellow soldiers are quitting? You know that in the major marathons, since we're talking about races and finishing races, the major marathons that are run in our country annually, that 98% of the people who sign up to participate in those races finish those races. That statistic caught me off guard because I would have figured something like 40 or 50% were finishers. 98% reportedly actually complete the race. Why? They love to run. I tried to run. But I just don't have a love for it. So people do. But people who participate in these marathons and races do a lot of preparing. I mean, the meals that they eat are eaten, prepared in view of what they're going to be doing. Their rest. The goals that they set for them help them purpose to win, to complete that race. For a period of time in their lives, I suppose, everything revolves around getting ready for that race so that they can finish. I think we can learn a lot from those people. Not so much spiritual things, but at least finishing and preparing to finish. This congregation, I know at least in a 10-day period, has provided ample opportunity for preparing to finish the race. But have we availed ourselves of that opportunity to prepare? And will we? In the future, when opportunities are presented, will you take advantage of opportunities to help me prepare to finish? Because, look, you and I are in a race tonight that requires a finish. In Acts chapter 20 and verse 24, Paul, after being warned, cautioned, that change and tribulation awaited him in Jerusalem, said, "None of these things move me. Nor do I count my life dear to myself, that I may finish my race with joy." This race is about finishing. It's not about coasting. It's about finishing. But we all know people who have walked off the track, the spiritual track. People very dear to us, perhaps even people that we were counting on, that we looked to. We looked at them with the mentality, follow me as I follow Christ, and they were the ones following Christ, and we were trying to model our lives by their example, and they just walk off the track. They don't finish. I don't want that to happen to us. Joseph Aquari was an Olympic runner in the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. That was the year I was born, so I don't know much about him personally, only what I have read about him. But I know that he was injured in the race, and he actually continued to the point of finishing the race, but it took him several hours after the winner had finished to finish. And he was asked by reporters later, "Why did you keep going?" And he said, "My country didn't send me to Mexico City to start a race. They sent me to finish it." Well, the spiritual application in that just abounds. When I think about everything that heaven has done in order that you and I might have opportunity even to run the race, but to finish it, and that we have all the resources of heaven on our side to help us finish. God did not go through what He went through for us just to start a race. All the preparation, all the planning, all the labor, all the suffering of our Lord and the death on the cross was so that we could finish this race. In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 6 through 7, Paul said, "I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." You see, I want to be like Paul in that regard. I want to be able to say, I have fought a good fight. I have finished the race when it's time to finish, and I've kept the faith. But I want that for you. I want that for people that I love, that I have depended on, that I have watched sit down in the middle of the track and in effect say, "I quit." But you're here tonight. So that means you still purpose and intend to run this race. I don't want you to quit. The race is done because we still have course that we must run. Now, it could end tonight. God could wave the proverbial checkered flag and call it to an end tonight. But until He does, we have to keep running, brethren. Number 3. Here's the third, I think, extremely important reality or fact about this last mile of the way. Don't lose the race in the home stretch. Admonition simply is don't quit. And the examples are many in the Bible. There is much said about not quitting, about continuing, keeping on, keeping on. I think of one example, Paul's fellow and faithful worker, Demas. Now that might not be the way that you think of him. When we think of Demas, we don't think of a faithful fellow worker. But in Philemon 24, that's exactly how he's described. A faithful fellow worker. And then it's in 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 10 where Paul says, Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world. There was a runner, a sprinter, a fellow partner in a race at one point who sat down and said, I quit. I wonder if Paul ever anticipated that. I doubt it. He called him a faithful fellow worker. So even faithful fellow workers can lose sight of the prize. Don't you know that there are people around you looking at you and to you for your example? 12 years in the military, 9 years security police, a whole lot of running in formation. At times when I just felt like I couldn't keep going. But I could look to the front, I could glance to the side, and I could hear behind me people all around who were running. And I drew encouragement from that and ran many more miles in combat boots than I ever thought that I could. But it's like that in the church. Whether you're an elder, a preacher, a deacon, a member of the congregation, a person who's in the golden years of their life, who still finds the strength in the morning to get out of bed on Sunday to come to services. Someone's looking at you. And your example reminds them that this is a race to the finish, and your example is an encouragement to keep going. I've preached in places where there were many members of the congregation who were, 85, 90, better. In one congregation, we had a lady that was 99 years old, still driving herself to services. I would say not safely driving herself. And, the kids are out front playing, and the parents see Miss Laura coming, and they just kind of swoop the kids up because she's going to park on the front sidewalk, not by it, on it. But I thought, it will be bad for mediocre Christians to go to judgment from a congregation like that, where in their 20s, 30s, and 40 years, they can't muster the energy and the interest to attend the services faithfully. But these older people who could sit down and rightly say, I just don't feel like going. That would be a bad place to go to judgment from. People are looking at you. And don't ever forget it. Because if you sit down, then they're going to be tempted to sit down too. Don't lose the race in the home stretch. Don't become a lover of the world. 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 through 17. Don't do it. Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 12 warns, brethren, beware lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. Don't walk off the track. What a sad tragedy it would be for you or for me, for that matter, to quit today or tomorrow, and then the Lord come the following day. All that would matter is that we quit. And all of our labor is in vain if we quit. I mean, and that's the reality in running a race, right? You have to cross the finish line to say, I finished the race. It's the same way spiritually. You can't sit down in the home stretch. One writer said, Brian Wilkerson, in a book entitled Endurance, said this about the New York City Marathon. He said, the first half of the New York City Marathon is a party. You're swept along by 28,000 runners and the crowds lining the streets. You're touring the ethnic neighborhoods of Brooklyn and Queens. You feel like you could run forever. At mile 13, you cross over the Manhattan and start into Manhattan and start heading north, away from the finish line. The crowds are thinner now. The party's over. At about mile 16 or 18, you hit the wall. You're absolutely miserable. Physically and psychologically, you're busted. I remember passing one of those first aid stations, he says, where runners were lying on cots with IVs dripping into their arms. I thought, they're the lucky ones. At that point, I began to despair. I imagined myself having to go home and tell everybody I didn't finish. Why did I ever sign up for this race? What made me think I could do this? And that's when it hit me. One way or the other, I had to get to Central Park. I had no car, no money. I would have to get there on my own 2 feet, so I might as well keep running. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Don't think about the next 6 miles. Just think about the next step. Gradually, the miles will pass. And when you cross that finish line, it feels like glory. Even when you're in 10,044th place. You finished the race. And I would say the Christian race is a lot like that. You finish in small, persistent steps. Not all at once. You and I can't handle everything that's going to happen to us in life, especially as Christians, in one big chunk. We take it one step at a time. And you and I might finish in 10,000th place. But it doesn't matter what place you finish in. You just finish. Don't lose the race in the home stretch. Fourth and finally tonight, to make the last mile, you must fix your eyes on the prize. Can't see around every turn in life. have to be able to look beyond it. It's another lady by the name of Marla Runyon, a little bit closer to our time, the U.S. Olympic runner, in Sydney, Australia in 2000. The lady was legally blind, had been for 22 years. But she qualified in the 1,500 meter race, and she finished just seconds behind the first place winner. She said of her ability to race, she can't see well, she just sees a blob. And so, for the most part, she follows the blob or the blur of people in front of her. But turning the last corner, they're out of view. She couldn't see them. And asked, "What did you do?" She said, "I just kept running. I know that the finish line is there." You can't see around every corner in life. And as you look out at the track, the spiritual track, there are a lot of obstacles. There are a lot of hurdles. But you just run. You run one step at a time. One of my favorite passages in all the Bible is Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. Because I find great encouragement and strength relative to running this race from that passage. We're told there that we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. We're encouraged to lay aside every weight and the sin that does so easily beset us, and we're to run the race with endurance. That race is set before us. But verse 2 is the one from which I get the most encouragement, because it says, "Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God." Looking unto Jesus. But did you notice? Who for the joy that was set before him. What joy was set before him? Because when I look at his life, what I see before him is rejection by his own people, is an attempt to take his life, is him being captured and tried unjustly, stripped of his clothes, spat upon, mocked, ridiculed, beaten to near death, and then suspended on a cross to die for the sins of the world. Who for the joy that was set before him. See, the joy was on the other side of the cross. Jesus could see the joy through everything that must be endured in order to get to that point. And I'm telling us tonight, that's what we have to do. We have to fix our eyes on the prize. Because if you focus on everything in the way, you'll be tempted to sit down. You'll be tempted to say, "I quit." You'll be tempted to fall out. Back to 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 8. This time, Paul said, "Finally, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day, and not to me only, but to all those who love his appearing." Paul wanted to run the race with joy, Acts 20. And in his life he did. He focused his mind's eye on the prize. And it's the same for us. I'm asking you tonight, on what are your eyes fixed as you run this race? Is it material possession? Is it just simply career advancement? Is it a load of cares of this world? Are you loaded down with weights that you don't need to be wearing as you run this race? Our challenge, our admonition tonight is to lay aside every weight, to fix our eyes on the prize and run the race until we're finished. And that might sound like an oversimplification, but that's what we desperately need. I mean, we could all probably fill the fingers on our hands with names of people that we know who have quit tonight. But you just go back 10 years, 15 years earlier in their life and look at where they were at and ask the question, then, do you think they would have quit? The ones that I'm thinking about, I would have said no. But they quit. If I can do anything tonight and have done anything at all in this meeting this week, I hope that I have caused us to at least think about the last mile of the way from these perspectives. We're already in it. And it's not over while there's still course for us to run. You can actually, contrary to what popular religious thought is today, you can actually lose the race in the home stretch. You can. It's not once in the race, always in the race. It's not once you start the race, you will definitely, without a doubt, finish the race. It's not about that at all. You can lose it in the home stretch. But you don't have to. You can fix your eyes on the finish line and run with diligence. And you do that through your faithful service to God for all the days that you live. You get connected to this congregation or whatever congregation you worship with regularly. You find your place to be involved, to work, to exercise your talents and your abilities and to utilize your time wisely. You get in the race. You become an encouragement to someone beside you. And by your example, you tell them, you can do this. You can run this race. You can finish it. Are you in the race tonight? See, just like any race, you have to register for it. You have to sign up to participate. And there's a spiritual sense in which you do that even with regard to this race. You obey the gospel of Jesus Christ. Through faith, repentance, confession, and baptism in water to have your sins washed away, you become a Christian, a child of God, a participant in the race that is set before us. So maybe you need to do that tonight. Quite frankly, maybe you're here tonight and spiritually you're sitting in the middle of the track. I don't know why. You may have sat down. But the point is, you sat down. And you really need to get up. And you need to finish. So maybe through repentance tonight, you need to come back home to God. Get back in the race. Run along beside your Christian brothers and sisters and be encouraged by them and encourage them. I'm going to sing a song to encourage you, all of us, to run. We are in the last mile, even as we speak, by virtue of the fact that we don't know when our race will be over. And I hope and pray that whether I ever come back to Georgia or not, that one day we'll be at that finish line and we'll look around and we'll see one another. And we'll be able to say, we didn't give up, we didn't quit, we finished. May God help us to fix our eyes on the prize, to encourage one another to run the race while we have opportunity. If you have a need to respond to the invitation tonight, I'm going to sing to encourage. Hope you'll use this opportunity as we stand.